Let's talk about map in JavaScript. And when I say map, I'm referring to the map object and not the map higher order function that you use in your arrays. So what exactly is the map object and how is it different from the regular object you have in JavaScript? Well, in this video, I help you understand the differences using examples and also show you when you can use one over the other. In JavaScript, you have your regular objects. You have your key, you can call this name with the value of Deeecode. Age, I don't even have to put this in quotes since it's a string. 50, I'm not 50 years old. Now, if you're going to do this with a map, you're going to have something like map equals new map, and then you can say map.set name with the value of Deeecode and map.set age 50. And let's look at some of the differences between these two. And one thing with regular object is that by default, object would inherit properties from the prototype chain. For example, if I come here and I say console.log obj.name and I run this, we get Deeecode. But what if I do obj.value of? You see, we don't have any value of here, right? But by logging this, we actually get a function for value of. Value of here is coming from the object's prototype chain. But if we had a map here and we do console.log map.get value of and I run this, here we get undefined because in this map we actually don't have any key of value of. But if I come here now and I add a key of value of 500, once I run this now, I get 500 for the map. So one of the differences, as you can see here, is that regular objects inherit properties from the object prototype or along the prototype chain, but with maps, the only properties you can access are the properties that you have explicitly set. Another difference you can see is how you loop through objects. So let's say we use the for in operator for let's key in obj console.log key. For in allows you to loop through the enumerable properties in an object, and sometimes those properties might include some of the properties from the prototype chain. If I run this, well, we might not see any of the properties from the prototype chain, but let's say up here I do object.prototype and I add a new prototype called hello and I give this a string of hi. Now if I come here and I run this, you can now see that we're getting hello as part of the keys in this object, and this hello is coming from the prototype here. Now one way you can solve this is you can add an extra check that says if obj has own property and it has a key, then we can do console log key. So this way we have this safety check that ensures that this key is actually part of the object itself. And now if I run this, I get name and age. Although this works, it might even have some gotchas where you have to do some extra checks, and that is why in some cases you see people do this instead. They'll do for let key of object keys, because you can use for of for iterable values. So object.keys obj, and then here we can say console.log key, and then I can take off this line. And if I run this, and now I have name and age. And if I want to get the value, I can say console.log key like this, and then I can say obj using the bracket notation past the key, and now I have the key value. Well, this is how it is with regular object. But if I want to do this with maps, it's even more straightforward. I can just say for let value of map console.log the value. If I should run this now, well, we get the first value, the second value, and the third value, which means we can even use array destructure in here to get the key as the first item in the array here and value as the second item in each of the array. And now if I do console log key value and I run this, you see we get the same thing. And this is shorter, more concise, or should I say more straightforward. Now another difference with regular objects and maps is that for objects, you can only use strings and symbols as the key. Here we have a name string, we have an age string, but with maps you can choose to use strings as we have done here, or you can even use objects or functions as a key. Let me give you an example. Let's say we have user1 name Deeecode, and here we have user2 name Jane. Here we can say map.set and we can pass user1, and then we can pass a value of online true, and then here we can have map.set user2 online false. Let me comment this line here, and now I can easily say console.log map.get and I can pass user1 like this, and if I run this, we get this value for the user1 object. I can pass user2 and we get this value for the user2 object. If you're using a regular object, you can only use string or symbols as keys, as I said earlier, but with maps you can use objects, you can even use functions. Another difference is how you clone objects. If I want to clone this object here, I can do const opt2 and I can use the spread operator to spread the obj object like this, which is actually more straightforward. But if I wanted to clone this map, I can do const map2 and then I can just say new map and then pass this existing map. It is not going to mutate this map. No, here I can now do map2.set and I can set the name to be something else, or I can get, or I can do whatever. Now at this point you're probably thinking, which of this is better? Well, it actually depends on what you want to do. Now if you have an object with fixed properties, or you're not frequently inserting or removing properties, you can just go with your regular object. They are plain, they are simple. But if you want to create an object where you would be frequently inserting properties or removing properties, you can go with maps. Even the MDN doc says that when it comes to performance, maps performs better in scenarios involving frequent additions and removals of key value pairs, while objects are not optimized for frequent additions and removals of key value pairs. So if you're working with large applications or complex operations that require these frequent modifications of object, maps are more performant. But if it's just simple object, you can go with your regular object. Now, one more difference I want to share between regular objects and maps is when it comes to JSON serialization. With normal objects, you can have a stringified JSON of this object by doing JSON stringify, and you can pass obj, you can pass null as the second argument, and you can pass your indentation of 2, and now I can do console.log stringified, and if I run this, I get a JSON stringified version of the object. But if I come to my map here and I say map stringified, JSON stringify, and I pass my map, pass my null and my 2, if I run this, oh, I forgot to do a console log. Okay, if I run this again, you can see that we get an empty object for the JSON stringify of the map. Well, that is because by default, maps are not directly stringifiable or serializable. In that case, this is where you create something called a replacer. So here we have a replacer which takes a key and a value. And in this replacer here, I can say if the value is an instance of map, then I want to return object.fromEntries and I pass the value. Else, I just return the value directly. And then I can pass this replacer here to the null. So with JSON stringify, you can create a replacer function which allows you to determine how your properties are transformed before they are stringified. And now if I come here and I run this, well, you can see now we have our JSON stringified version of our map. And at the same time, with stringified versions, you can easily pass them. Let's call this passed. You can easily do JSON pass, and you can pass your stringified JSON, and you console log passed. If I run this, well, the passed version is the object. But here, if we do map passed equals JSON.pass and we pass the map stringified, console.log map passed.get, and I try to get maybe name, or let me also do console.log map passed. Now if I come here and I run this, you see that map passed is just like a regular object. And now that we try to call the get method, you can see that we get an error, get is not a function. So what we can also do is we can pass something called a reviver to the pass method, and here we can create our reviver function, and this will also take a key and a value. And what we can say here is that if the type of value is an object, so I'm going to return new map object.entries, and then I can pass the value. But if the value is not an object, I can just return the value directly. Now by passing this reviver, if I come here now and I run this, I have transformed that object that came from the string to a map. And now I can do my map.getName and I get Deeecode. So now you can see that there's a lot of extra work involved in serializing a map. But for serializing a regular object, it's more straightforward. And this also shows you that, for example, in API calls, you cannot send map objects to a server or receive map objects from a server. You can only serialize it, then do the transformation either on the server or on your client. But I hope this video shows you the differences between regular objects object and maps, you can actually think of maps as advanced objects that have more controls. I hope this video helps. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a like, share with others, subscribe for more videos like this, and you can also check out more JavaScript videos I have on my channel. You should see some of the videos currently on the screen.